Hi, Gender and Communication. This is going to be a short video on your options for research paper number 3, which is your last research paper of this class. You're just almost there. What do we have, like 5 or 6 weeks? I think 6 weeks left, if you count the week that we're in. So you're almost here and approaching the finish line, and now you have a choice to make. So I have loaded the research paper number 3 assignment guide on my computer, and the first thing you're going to notice is that there are 2 choices, just like the first 2 research papers. And as I said here, I would just pick the one that sounds the most interesting or feels like the best fit for you. There's a couple different reasons why I have 2 options for this paper, and I'm going to try to explain what that is, because I think it'll give you some context for why we're even doing these 2 things. Okay, so they're really similar in terms of the assignment guidelines, the specifications, the kinds of things you need to do, and they're actually really similar in terms of like the intellectual kinds of thinking. So they're aimed at the same thing, they're just on different topics. So the first one, it's like I call it a cultural analysis paper. You could think of it as a media analysis paper if you wanted to. You are going to take, if you do this paper, you use your knowledge of gender and communication to look at a real world situation and then apply it to something that's happening in the real world. And specifically in this case, your examples are probably going to come from media. I would like this one to be about the media. So there's a chapter on media's communication of gender, and these 2 things tie in really nicely together. So it's about an issue of gender and communication within popular culture, and I provided some examples for you to think about how you could do this. So you pick like a TV show or an advertisement or something, and then you analyze how that TV show uses gender. So I read a really good paper once on the use of drag in Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you put that example into the historical context, it's a really powerful example about how we talk about gender. And then in this case, it's a movie that got famous for breaking a lot of rules, so to speak. Sometimes people will pick up one that is examples from really popular kids movies, because those are aimed at kids, and that has different effects. So I listed a few here. The one that's not on here is, I think I read a paper. Well, actually, Sleeping Beauty is a great example of a kid's tale that has some really like disturbing messages about gender. If you think about the narrative, which is that, so you're going to analyze the narrative, and so the narrative is this girl is asleep, and somebody she doesn't know has to make out with her in order to get her to wake up. And in the original tale, he doesn't actually he actually has sex with her while she's unconscious, which is rape. And so obviously Disney took that part out because that's really disturbing. You're not going to have that in a little kids movie. And then she's like wakes up and she's like, "Oh, Prince, nice to see you," and they live happily ever after. So you could analyze that, because a lot of people, if you read the tale that way, it's disturbing. The same thing as Beauty and the Beast, which was really popular when I was a kid. She gets kidnapped by somebody and then is forced to marry him. So, and Disney has actually responded and companies like Disney have responded to a lot of feedback about this, because those are kind of strange, troubling messages. So now we see movies like Frozen and Brave might be another one that are trying a little harder to portray positive messages. So you're trying to analyze some example. I think I read one a couple semesters ago that was on American Horror Story. It was on the season of the hotel season. There's gender is in everything. I read one once, it was on Everybody Loves Raymond, which I know some of you might not know. It was a TV show that was popular for quite a while, but there's a lot of like gender stereotypes in there, and then that's how they're like poking fun at the gender stereotypes in that TV show. So that was a really interesting paper to read too. So you pick an example and then you analyze it, and I would just pick something that you are interested in, familiar with. You don't need to rewatch it a whole bunch of times. The second topic is maybe the more weighty of the two topics. This paper came about because I had a student who actually I think I had talked about this in class and I had mentioned something and she had this great idea and it was about rape culture and she's like, "Can I write this paper?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yes." So I actually ended up writing this assignment guide, and normally there are students who are drawn to this topic because it is such a meaningful topic. It ties right in perfectly with our final chapter for this class, and it's actually kind of where we've been leading to is this critique of gender and culture, and it has to do with rape culture. So what you would do in this is cover topics like, what is rape culture? Can you provide me with some examples? What are some of the social origins, which I'm going to tell you, we've been studying the social origins and we're going to keep studying the social origins. Just like the use of space in American culture, it is much more okay to violate a woman's space than it is to violate a man's space, and that is tied into rape culture. Just giving you a hint, something like that would be something I might want to talk about. And then the final paragraph, besides a conclusion, would probably be some kinds of things that we could do to limit or end rape culture, some solutions. And then and so this is a really powerful option. I feel like I mostly talked about the first option. This is a really powerful option. Some students are just really drawn to this topic because it's so important and really necessary and really compelling. And I would really encourage you, if you have any interest in this topic at all, to go ahead and explore it. Now, if this is just too dark for you, then pick the other option. It's totally fine. It's just here because I know a lot of students use this to really nail down some important, like the most important stuff of this class kind of culminates in this paper about rape culture. So you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Maybe it's too sensitive. Maybe it's not interesting. But it's there as an option for you. And the specifications for both papers are the same. It's 3 to 5 pages, just like the last two, typed, double-spaced, 12-point font. Of course it's typed. This is an online class. Once in a while, face-to-face, somebody tries to turn something in, not typed. Basically APA format, although you already know that I'm not terribly nitpicky. I just need a reference page, really. And you are going to have 3 sources. One of them can be the textbook. So for both of these topics, it should not be hard to find like actual academic work on these subjects. Like, this is going to be such a funny example, but if you ever heard the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe some of you have seen it, it's an excellent program. I wrote a paper on Buffy the Vampire Slayer once, and I took it to a conference, and like it got paraded all around, and there were a handful of other, when I wrote that, there were a couple other people who were talking about it in this critique kind of way, and then I tied in other kinds of examples that was research about the specific theme that I was studying within that particular movie. So, or sorry, TV show. So that's what you're going to do. And this, like I said, the specifications are the same for both papers. They're the same length, they're the same. It's analytical. The textbook I would use a textbook as a source in both of them, and that will be your 3rd source. You could have 4 sources too. As always, email me with questions, and when you turn those preparation assignments in on Sunday, I will of course provide you feedback in the next couple days. Have a good day.